Yeah, let me see if I can put a mixing ball in my Temple Guard blue. For a little agitation. Who doesn't want balls in their to agitate? All right, so let's grab our inspiration image. Okay, so it looks like we're going to paint this stuff red. Okay. All right, for anyone joining us, so we prime this with Rust-Oleum Ultramat Perfect Gray. Okay, that's what we did. So if you're curious as to what that looks like beforehand, you can look at the guns, or right here we have this Proxy Gladiator class Star Destroyer. So that's the base color that we started with. So we then used Army Painter Speed Paint 2.0, Holy White. It's a grayish white, like it says right there. Okay. Now, there's 4 colors I think that we're going to concentrate on. These little tiny doors on the sides all need to be red, as well as these 2 portions of the engine segment. The rest of the engines will be this contrast ultramarine blue, right here and right here. And then there are lots of metal bits that we're going to do with our lead belcher. It's not actually a lead belcher, it's a combination of lead belcher and craft gunmetal, but there we go. I think what we want to do is start at the red. Just be very careful, use a small brush, and get that done. So let's see how good we can do this without messing it up. If we mess up, it's not a huge deal. We just should try to not do that. Is transparent paint the best use case for this? No, probably not. But that's what we're using. Alright. First set done. I think what we need to do is there we go. Alright. Let's do the second set. I bet working on these ships was not the most comfortable thing, considering the fact that they didn't have artificial gravity. I know that if you read the rule books, the source books, they talk about them needing to swap out crew. So they'd move crew. I think this is with the advent of the Omega that had the spinning sections, that they would swap crew in a battle group to do rotations on the Omega. That was a little too much. So that they would have a chance to acclimate themselves in gravity while on deployment. Well, that was not great. Here's the deal. This is going to go on the tabletop, and no one is going to be able to tell. Okay, so that's all the red on this side. Go to this side now. We had some friends come over because my wife is preparing to do a small ensemble song, and my buddy John came over, and he had never heard, well, I mean, he had heard of, but he'd never seen Babylon 5, so I was like, oh my gosh! So I tried to hand him my DVDs, and he's like, I don't have a player that will play these. Which I thought was funny. I mean, we have a standalone DVD or Blu-ray player because my wife wanted to watch Quantum Leap, and we couldn't find a good download of Quantum Leap, so we had to buy the DVDs or the Blu-rays, whatever they were. So that's what she watched. It was on there. Alright, so that's all the red on those done. Steven said, I wonder if they built them vertically a la The Expanse, considering they seem to have the ability to generate pretty constant thrust. I don't know. I mean, so if you look at the timeline that The Expanse takes place, The Expanse takes place in the 2500s. Okay, so is this accurate? I'm looking at oh. Takes place in what year? 2350. So this is 100 years after what Babylon 5 is set in. And it's obviously very, very different. One thing, I mean, there are aliens. Okay, so we're going to do this right here. I think it's hilariously, like, obviously, yeah, you know, when you look at a science fiction writer, they're not, with the exception of, you know, Andy Weir, I don't think a lot of science fiction writers are putting a ton of effort into accurately replicating stuff. But, like, we see the idea that spinning stations and starships would be on an idea that we would use today. So the idea that they didn't do that in the Babylon 5 era is a little weird to me. Alright, so this one isn't so clear. We're going to do this. I think we might be bordering on where the blue needs to go. But, you know, I mean, no one's telling us this. This is what we're going to do. We're going to coat this whole thing in red for ease, and then go back and highlight all the pipes in gunmetal. Okay. Alright. That's one segment done. We printed out a monster full of these Nova Dreadnoughts, and we kept getting failures until we really went down and sat down with our slicer and put a ton of detail work into making sure that every single part was supported correctly. So when we do eventually get wreckage onto the Etsy store, there will be several Nova Dreadnoughts and a few Hyperions as a selection. I want to put that stuff up for on Etsy because it's just taking up space. And normally we'd throw that stuff away, but this time we chose not to. So we have a whole bunch of Star Wars ships that we've had failures on, either failures because the printer wasn't working right or failures because we just didn't take the time to support it right. And I figure, you know, what better way to not waste that resin than to sell it as wreckage. I am concerned a little bit that somebody's going to end up buying it and then thinking they're getting an actual completed starship and not a starship with deformities. I believe Etsy has a way to make people like type in an acknowledgement as a form of personalization. So we might end up saying in that personalization field, hey, by typing yes, you acknowledge that you understand that you're buying a broken part that's intended for use as wreckage. And maybe that'll work? Who knows, man? Who knows? People are unpredictable. Stephen Bennett says, I mean, they did use spin stations and starships. Yeah, they did. Like the Orion class station that you see around Is that Proxima 3 that you see that? Maybe Proxima 3 is a actual um, land station, but they're going to have star bases that have that in there. Yeah, so they had the ideas, we just didn't see them in starships for some reason. Okay, so that was Blood Angels Red. That's the only red contrast paint I have. I do have... You don't have to use contrast paint, obviously. You can use any paint. Like we've got flat red from Vallejo. We've got, what is this? Pure red from Army Painter. We have Pro Acryl's transparent red, and then we have Slaughter red. I think we might have another red too from Army Painter, but that's the one that we used. Okay, so we've got 2 colors or 3 colors to go. We've got the blue for the engine segments, and then the gunmetal for all the metal bits, and we're going to do a lot of it, a lot of metal bits on here. And then we're going to use Temple Guard blue for our engine glow. All right, let's just get the engines done, because what we'll do is we'll do the blue on the engines, and then as that's drying, we'll start from this end and go this way and get to the gunmetal parts. That way everything should be dry by the time it's ready to go. So according to the picture that we're looking at, this is efni.org. It's blue all the way to the tip of the engine cone. If we look for an official picture, can't see the engine in that picture. Well, that one doesn't have any blue on it. That's interesting. Okay, we're just going to go to the tip for now. Well, also the Babylon station, since where is Presidential Air Force One. Yes, also not only Presidential Air Force One, but every civilian liner that we see. Well, I guess it's that one class of civilian liner that's got the spin station, or the spin portion on it. So it's there, it's just for some reason chosen not to be there on their warships until the Omega. I don't know. I wonder if there was a existential threat that caused them to rush that. But like, it doesn't track, I think, with modern development. Well, it does kind of, because the Nova Dreadnought is kind of an old ship. I mean, it's not as old as, by the time we see it in Babylon 5, it's pretty old. Like they're trying to supersede all of the Novas with Omegas. I don't know if they're doing that out of whole cloth or if they're doing that with new construction as well. Probably a mixture of both. But you do see that once they get the Omega, that's kind of what they want. But they also have the Hyperion, which is a zero-G vessel. The Olympus, which is a zero-G vessel. It's interesting because of the trade relationship the Earth has with the Centauri. It's interesting to see that the Centauri never shared that with us in the show. Maybe it's a the anti-gravity tech leads to other military applications that they didn't want humans rushing to that advancement. Okay, I don't think we're going to do the insides of the engine cones. I wonder if you could... I don't know if we see this, because obviously the world isn't crazy detailed, but I wonder if there was a way to transition Nova Dreadnoughts into having anti-gravity plating. Steven said, if I recall correctly, the Imagine spin section was to stop spinning during combat because the spinning things have more structurally unsound damage. However, the effects department screwed up and didn't do it. Narn ships also don't have gravity tech. Yeah, every time that we see a Narn cockpit or bridge, they are all belted in, just like you would see on a Hyperion or a Nova. And that's interesting because, as far as we're aware, the Narn technology for their ships is directly from salvage from when they kicked the Centauri off of their world. So the Centauri anti-gravity tech, which I'm like 99% sure existed, maybe that just was a new thing for the Centauri, so they didn't want to share it. So this was, we were talking earlier about wreckage, this was one of the ships that was deformed when printing, and we tried our best to salvage it. You can see that this turret is crooked because this is a turret cut off of wreckage to try and make this one complete. And if we had gotten it on straight, we would have stocked it as inventory. But we definitely did not do that, so it's not inventory. I kind of have an inclination to go in and do the turret mounts in like dark gray or black. To kind of set them apart from the turrets, because this gunmetal gray, I mean, it's metallic, but it's kind of the same color, even if it's metallic. So we'll try that on one of the rear ones when we get to that point and see if it looks good. I think what I need to do is I need to get into my toolkit and create a Nova with the upgraded Omega weapons. Basically just go into my 3D modeling software, pop off all of the Nova turrets, and put all the Omega turrets on there. I don't know what I would call that refit. I bet that refit has a name. If I had to guess, yeah, it's going to be a ship that we can go look at on the Babylon 5 Wars. Do they call their site a wiki? The Babylon 5 Wars expanded site that has all of the custom-made ships that were published in all those magazines when Babylon 5 Wars was still a thing. I bet you there's a Nova refit in there that has a name that we could do. That would be a fun little ship. Doing these turrets with this smaller brush is kind of tedious. You know, I think it's tedious enough that we're going to switch to one of our other brushes. So we're going to put down that one. We're going to grab our Citadel brush. Hashtag not sponsored. I mean, we only have 700 subscribers. It's not like someone like Games Workshop is looking at us, be like, "Oh yeah, we need a. They accurately represent our products. We should get them on board." All right. Turret engine. It's a little bit right there. It's a little too much paint. A little bit right there. A little bit right there. A little bit right there. Right there. Right there. Right there. Okay. Rotate. 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 Okay. Let's do, this guy here. All right. I think we are going to put a little red in the hangar bay, because generally speaking, the lighting that you see coming from Earth Force hangar bays is red. Beyond not affecting your night vision, not exactly sure why they chose red, but I mean, it looks cool. Looks a little spooky. Now I'm looking at the forward arrays, the sensor arrays and such, and I think to delineate them from weapons, we are going to paint them a different metallic color. Okay, so real quick, we're going to do the hangar, the exterior of the hangar in gunmetal. And then we're going to do these guys. Ooh, shaking. Shaking. Ooh. Okay. So let's let that dry for a second. Let's look at chat. We're caught up on chat for now. Okay, we're going to continue using our Citadel brush. And we're going to grab our other metallic that we like to use that stands out, kind of almost. Granite steel. We can use that on our vortex mixer for a little while. Okay. I would use this on the engines, but it's going to be a little muddled over there, so we're going to pass for now. This brush, I think, is at its end of its life. I think it needs to be converted into a dry brush. Okay, we're going to do the center portion on here and the background, just get it in there. Okay, so real quick, let's see what we've got so far. We're going to grab our holy white and put it in our palette real quick, because there's a spot here on the palette that I want to cover some more in our base paint. Taking care of this stuff now because we're letting things dry. Try not to cover anything that we've already done in another color. Actually, we're going to grab a little more. And we're going to do another pass on the bridge, I think, as well. There's a line right here. at the engine that we're going to do. I'm not worried about these white spots on the engine because I'm going to do those in a different color anyway. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the neck and nose section. Make sure we have a much more even coat of this. My wife bought the Army Painter Speed Paint for me at my request, and I like it. I don't think I've used it enough to... Really, I'll tell you what the big issue is. The big issue that I have with all of the transparent paints is, you know, I think Games Workshop gets a lot of shit for their poor paint pots and for layer paints. Yeah, I think it encourages people to paint directly out of the pot, and I don't think those layer paints, even though that you watch every single professional mini painter on YouTube and none of them are painting directly out of the pots with those paints, I think those pots do encourage people to paint directly from the pot. So, okay, so that is redoing that base coat. We're going to put away our holy water and wash the brush, and then we are also going to not touch stuff up, but do some highlights with some Rune Lord brass, which we will get to after we're done here in a bit. Make sure that's all mixed up. Okay, so we're going to go back. We're going to grab our gunmetal, and we're going to paint directly out of the pot, which is exactly what I said people shouldn't do. Okay, so real quick, we're going to pick out stuff on the engines and make sure that the engines all they pop. I am in no ways a professional painter, by the way, if that was not evident by my tools and whatnot. I'm just a guy who likes starships. Do these engine greebles. Okay. And there, do that. This guy. I think so. We got lots of okay, so we're gonna go in and do all these little pipes along the red engines. Our next step for the Etsy store, besides getting that wreckage on there, is converting all of our pictures to the new picture standard that we are, or the new picture background that we're using for listings, which is the black vertical background with the blue cutting board. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm also going to do this. I'm going to put gunmetal metallic on each of the engines. These engines are not super well supported. It's hard to support these big flat pieces and have them come out. Okay, so there's that. Let's go in and do this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and then this guy. Okay, now we're going to do the center of these guys. Make sure we get in all the nooks and the crannies. Have no idea what a cranny is. Like, where's the etymology of that word? Stephen Bennett asks, are you going to use these for Armada proxies? Everything that we print out for our personal store, or our personal tabletop, we print in Armada scale, but we play full thrust with them because I think full thrust is an easier game system to learn, and that's completely subjective. Like, the easiest game system to learn is really the game system that you put the time in to learn. Alright, so there's that. Let's go into all the side details and put some stuff in there. So yes, they're Armada scale. No, we aren't directly going to put Star Wars, or we're not going to play Star Wars Armada with them. There is a group in the Armada community who's working on adding other universes to Star Wars Armada. Let's see what the name of that community is. The name of that community in Discord is Star Wars Armada Legacy. And right now they're doing a big push to get Battlestar Galactica in Star Wars Armada. So at that point, like, I think when they've got that good and ready and they start showing that on YouTube channels, I'll probably see if they want to do Babylon 5 next. Because, I mean, look, we sell specific sculpts of Babylon 5 ships, but almost every single Babylon 5 ship you've ever wanted is available if you have a 3D printer or know someone with a 3D printer. Almost every single ship has been sculpted out in 3D for people to play with. So while we would prefer people buy models from us, obviously, the models are out there for anyone to print and paint. You won't find this Nova or the Omega. You won't find our Poseidon. You won't find our stuff that we've done for our Hyperion or our Olympus. But there are Olympuses out there. There are Novas out there. There are Omegas out there, and they are Hyperions out there. So nothing's stopping people from putting Babylon 5 ships in Armada, which I think is good. I think that's healthy. I'm liking this so far. Let's do a little more detail on this. You have to arrive at a scale, I think, that you like when importing ships into the thing. Because, like, I think the Armada scaling system, where it's a sliding scale from I think the smallest scale is like 1 to 800, and the biggest scale is like 1 to 34,000 for the Super Star Destroyer, or 55,000 or whatever it is, whatever dumb number. That makes sense for Star Wars because there's such a disparity in the size of the ships that we see on screen. Even if you discount the Super Star Destroyer and Ethan Leroy's Supremacy, there are still, like, there's a disparity to scale, so it makes sense to have that sliding scale. But for Star Wars, for something like Babylon 5 or Star Trek, I think you want in those universes to have a set scale. So, for instance, all of the Babylon 5 ships that we printed to scale are printed at 1 in 10,000. Same thing with Battlestar Galactica. The ships that we print for Battlestar Galactica are 1 in 10,000. And I think that works really well. But if you want to, for instance, bring Star Trek into here, the difference between this Sovereign class and this guy. So this guy is 1,500 meters, and this is 600 meters. Okay, so this is scaled in 1 in 4,000. Let me get the Akira. Here we go. This is scaled in 1 in 4,000, and all of the Star Trek ships that we print from the Next Generation onward are in 1 in 4,000 scale. And so internally they all look similar to each other. And the only places that you really run into problems are 3 well-known ships for Star Trek. You have the D'Deridex Warbird. You have the Dominion battleship, not the battle cruiser, but the battleship, which you first see in Valiant, but you see it also in Sacrifice of Angels. And then the Borg Cube, because Borg Cube is 3 kilometers to a side. So those 3 ships don't really translate well into that one scaling, that 1 in 1/4,000 scaling. But like all the Babylon 5 ships next to each other work just fine. We've got this FDM printed Avioki on here, and that I think that works. My printer has a problem with these in FDM, so we printed these for retail in resin. Another example is with the Expanse ships. So these Expanse ships, I think, are also at 1 in 4,000 scale. Same thing as Star Trek, except for the Donager, which we did at 150 millimeters. And I think the Donager needed to be a little smaller compared to like the Pella and the Scirocco. So the scale is smaller on this, so it's like 1 in like 6,000 or something like that. Whereas these are 1 in 4,000, just like the Star Trek ships. So you have to, if you want to deal with scaling universes together, you're going to have to do that kind of weird calculation to figure out what works best on here. We're going to do engine glow last. But you know, I mean, no one's holding a gun to your head and saying it has to be this way. So really, it can be any way. So we're going to go in here and do this. But, you know, that's just like my personal opinion, man. And some boop, boop, boop. There we go. Look at chat for a second. Okay, we got Stephen Bennett said, I don't know that the Legacy Group was working on incorporating other IPs. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if they're related to the X-Wing Legacy Group, but I understand that there was a kerfuffle on the X-Wing subreddit regarding the guys involved with Legacy and how they're a little militant with the way that they promote their alternative rule set. Someone in the Armada subreddit had put a thing on, you know, talking about how AMG has reaffirmed that they aren't developing any new starships for Armada. And what I put in that subreddit, or in that specific topic on the subreddit, was that you know, if you look at dead games like Blood Bowl, Battlefleet Gothic, what's the Halo Fleet Battles and Halo Ground Command, all it takes is a dedicated community to keep a dead game alive forever. So, like, the idea that AMG has to be the one to produce stuff is, I think, false. As long as the players exist and they play the game will go on forever. I think the big issue is that there's a significant segment of the Star Wars Armada and X-Wing player base that are looking for competitive play, and until someone takes up the reins to offer a non-AMG competitive play and basically get enough design in to make sure that, like, a worldwide championship happens or even a national championship happens, those are the people that are concerned with no official stuff coming out, because they want to be the stuff that they want to do, they want to be officially recognized. But like casual play, I mean, casual play for Armada will be around long after Asmodee is done playing with the intellectual property, or if Disney revokes it or whatever. So, and you know, that's a niche. That's my niche right there. Is the niche of I'm a third-party producer of Star Wars Armada figures based on sculptors that I myself support on places like Patreon, where you get cool things like alternative sculpts for a gladiator, alternative sculpts for the hard cell transport. We have totally unique sculpts like this MC43 from O'Neill Creations. You have community sculpts where myself and the user Grand Admiral Thrawn in the O'Neill Creations and Star Wars Armada Discord kit bashed together a version of the Class 546 cruiser from The Mandalorian. What else? We have like third-party producers producing things like the Venator, where this Venator is a sculpt from Ethan Leroy. You have, like, this is a creation based on a video game asset for the Dauntless that we very heavily modified. And then you have things like, you're talking about Babylon 5 ships, where there are ships that are free. Here is a modification of a free ship from the Narn that's available if you go and look for it. So, as long as creators are willing to spend time in the space, these hobby games don't ever die. Okay, how long have we been going? Where's my... We've been up for 48 minutes, so it's time to put on the last step and call this good. We're using Temple Guard Blue as our engine glow. We're going to grab our crappy paintbrush. We're going to apply some blue on the engines. Alrighty, there we go. So, that is the Nova Dreadnought. Scaled to be suitable for Star Wars Armada. This is available, 3D prints, unpainted 3D prints of this are available on pulsefiredgaming.etsy.com. If you want to go ahead and support our channel, we could use your likes, we could use your subscriptions. We could use your comments. Most importantly, thank you very much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Have a good day.